All right, Travis. So what the heck is family business evaluation all about? Can
Okay.
you explain it, please?
So valuation for a family business is really just about deciding, for many families, the business is the most valuable asset they own.
Yep.
And you wouldn't tolerate an investment advisor who didn't tell you what your portfolio was worth.
Right.
And families need to have an idea of what their business is worth. That helps them plan, that helps them make better decisions about this asset that they hold in common.
I get that, and I get the people. It's messy, it's complex. I've had unhappy clients. So how do you explain how to do evaluation?
Great question. There are really three basic approaches. An asset-based approach takes an inventory of what does the company own, whether that be land, buildings, inventory, real estate. What does it owe in terms of its liabilities? And the net is a description, a measure of the value of the business.
Got it.
But for most companies, for most operating businesses, that's not going to capture the entire value. So for many businesses, we can kind of leave that aside and focus on two other approaches. An income approach looks to the future, says, okay, what could I, as an owner of this business, expect to receive as an owner? And those can be in the form of distributions from the business or an ultimate sale of the business at some point in the future. So an income approach looks at that future outcome, looks at those future outcomes and brings those back to the present to say, what would somebody be willing to pay today in light of those expectations for the future?
Got it.
And a market approach is a little bit more akin to having your house appraised. As the appraiser goes out and looks for comparable businesses that look like your family business in some respect. That may be the industry they're operating in, the geography they're operating in, their size. There are any number of measures of comparability. But finding those comps, seeing how those businesses have transacted in real life between arm's length buyers and sellers, and translating that, drawing an analogy from that to your family business to draw a conclusion of value for your family.
I like that, and those three buckets make good sense to me. It's very clear. And how frequently would people need your services to do a valuation?
So it can vary. For most families, it's an annual process. Of course, the stock market gives us data continuously about the value of businesses, but that's frankly not necessary for most family businesses. They're taking a long view. So an annual valuation cycle is usually sufficient.
You're hinting that you've got some that are quarterly or more frequent.
We do have some that based on various redemption programs and employee ownership programs have more frequent valuations, but those would be more the exception than the rule.
And is there ever a reason for a larger company or a more complex, say, family office with multiple enterprises to have multiple valuations from your firm and other firms? Or is it smarter to have, say, everything under one house?
What we've found is that consistency over time is desirable. You know, one area this comes up most frequently for families is with regard to buy-sell agreements.
Yeah.
So most families, whether they've read them recently or not, there's an agreement sitting around somewhere that says, if one of us has to leave, here's the process that we'll follow. And the most common process there is you'll hire an appraiser, I'll hire an appraiser, they'll go do their thing, and we'll compare the results.
One's high, one's low.
Guess what? Often one is high and one is low. And then a lot of times the agreements will say, then we'll hire a third appraiser to either compare the initial two and pick one or to do their own appraisal. But what you can end up with is a process that one becomes very expensive and two becomes extremely time consuming. So what we found works best is that the family members agree on what a valuation process should look like when they don't know who's going to be buying and who's going to be selling.
Hmm.
Doug, you're a psychologist, so you can probably understand that people are a lot more rational when there's not a conflict in view. Okay? So when I don't know 5 years from now, 10 years from now, will I be the buyer or the seller? I'm in a much better position to take a rational view about how should the value of our business really be determined.
Hmm.
So if we can identify and develop a relationship with a single appraiser today that the family can get around and understand how they approach it and what conclusions they reach
Hmm.
before there's a triggering event,
Right.
then when that triggering event occurs, we've got a history of, hey, this company has valued our business for the past 4 years. They've used consistent methodologies, they've used consistent assumptions, always geared toward what's happening in the market, but we know the basic framework they're going to follow. Everybody understands the discounts that are going to apply or not apply, and we can accept the results of this appraisal process and move on with our lives.
I love it. And if you could wrap up with a little commercial about Mercer, how much scope do you guys have? How long have you been doing it?
Yeah. So at Mercer Capital, we've been providing valuations for family businesses for close to 40 years. Since our founding in 1982, we're headquartered here in Memphis, Tennessee, but we have offices in Nashville and Dallas and Houston as well. And we're ready and able to work with your family and help set up a valuation process that can make sense and can work for you.
Which leads to, how do you do valuations virtually? I've got somebody in New York, California. How do they work with this?
It's like most things, it is remarkably easy. So our business is about half in our local geographic areas, and the rest has always been a nationwide practice.
Mm-hmm.
So what used to be getting on the plane and flying to California to meet with a client now consists of a series of Zoom calls and getting them to provide some pictures, video, other things. There are ways to allow us to see what we need to see, talk to who we need to talk to in order to provide reliable valuation results.
That's tremendous. Anything else you want to say?
Well, I really appreciate talking with you, Doug, and the opportunity.
Absolutely. So I quit the recording. That was kind of fun. You're good at this. Have you done this before?
A couple times, but appreciate it. That was good.
It was good.